Hey folks, Daily Landsblog for the 11th of November 2020. I don't know why I hesitated because today is Remembrance Day, and that's what I'd like to talk about in today's Daily Landsblog. This is not...
Sorry.
Don't say sorry, are you kidding? That pizza looks
look at that
awesome.
pizza.
Oh yeah. You know, as I'm surrounded by family, I try to attach meaning to Remembrance Day beyond the numbers. You know, to say that 53,000 or thereabouts Canadians died, for instance, in World War II is kind of numbing. You know, a number doesn't convey emotion. But if you learn about one person, then you really learn about the war. You really learn about what Remembrance Day is all about. And I think I gained at least a sense of that on, it was 2013, when Karen, Corey, Liz, Casey, and I, and my mother-in-law, Bea, went to Benny-sur-Mer, the Canadian War Cemetery at Juno Beach. And we walked around, and before I had gone, I had asked anybody on Twitter who wanted me to visit a grave of somebody that they knew, cared about, were related to. I thought it would add special significance for me to be able to put a face to this vastness of tragedies. And we did that. I got a message from a guy who ultimately said this was my uncle. He was buried there. He gave me his name, and we found his grave. And I was able to put a stone on it, which is Jewish tradition for graveside. And then when I got back, I started thinking about it, and I started thinking, I wanted to write about it. So I asked my friend, Rob Owen, who was the nephew of him, to give me some details. And I said, is there any memorabilia? Is there anything that his parents or his sister, which would be Rob's mom, saved? And he said, yeah, we got boxes of it, but we never really looked at it because it was too painful. And I said, could I see some of it? And he said, sure. So I met him, I brought it home and opened up the box, and it's like I opened up this vastness of emotion and knowledge. And I felt like, for one of the first times in my life, even just a tiny bit, I understood what Remembrance Day was about. And I started to unpack this, and there were medals in there, and there were letters home, and there were pictures of him with his friends. And then there was this one letter, which I knew exactly what it was going to be. I don't know why I knew, but I knew what it was going to be. So, God, this was just so painful to think about. To think about all of the families. And it doesn't matter whether it's World War II or World War I or Afghanistan, just the idea of having a loved one fighting and not knowing on a daily, hourly basis how they're doing. So here is the letter that I saw, and it was regarding John G. Martin, John Gordon Martin. It was addressed to his dad. Now, this tells you something about the times. This letter was delivered on the 23rd of June, 1944. It was addressed to Mr. George Arthur Martin, Pickering, Ontario. And I just thought, man, that told you something about the times. There was no address. The mailman or the mail person would just know where he lived because he knew the names and he knew the people, which would have made handing over this letter incredibly painful for him. So it's addressed to Mr. George Arthur Martin, Pickering, Ontario. Dear Mr. Martin. And as I was reading this, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm feeling this incredible sense of loss, even though I didn't know this person. But I think we know what parents feel. And the letter says this: it is with deep regret that I learned of the death of your son, B64089, Rifleman John Gordon Martin, who gave his life in the service of his country in France on the 6th day of June, 1944. June the 6th, of course, 1944 was D-Day. And he would have gotten off a landing craft, and I found out subsequent to the things that I read that his parents weren't really told the real story, that in fact he had died before he even got off the landing craft. And I just thought of what it would have been like to be a parent opening that letter. I just thought of what it's like when one person goes to war and dies. How many people die along with that? And on this Remembrance Day, 7 years after we went there, I choose not to remember the fallen in Afghanistan or any of the other wars that we fought in, but just one person. That one person being John G. Martin, who died on the 6th of June, 1944. Good timing, Riggs. Dogs represent life. They represent joy. And on this Remembrance Day, having read that, I kind of feel like I could use a little bit of that. So thanks, Riggs. Daily Landsblog, 24 hours a day, 364 days a year. On this day, we're a day to remember not all, but one.